We all can say that we're never going to commit a crime, but that doesn't mean you won't be accused.
Some people, they feel really bad and sad and everything happened to me. And sometimes it feels like you want to cry, but you can't. Kind of shocked sometimes.
Today, we discuss the infamous Steven Avery case, who many believe is serving a prison sentence for a crime he did not commit. Steven Avery grew up in Manitowoc County, Wisconsin, and his family owned a salvage yard in Two Rivers. He reportedly had an IQ of 70 and he dropped out of high school. In 1981, he was convicted of burglarizing a bar and later served 10 months in jail. The following year, he pled guilty to animal cruelty after he poured gasoline on a cat and tossed it into a bonfire. He was sentenced to 9 months. In 1985, he again ran afoul of the law when he forced a car driven by Sandra Morris, a cousin who was the wife of a sheriff's deputy, off the road and pointed a gun at her. Avery claimed that he wanted her to stop spreading rumors about him. In 1984, she had filed a complaint alleging that he had exposed himself on several occasions. He received a 6-year sentence for the car incident but was granted bail.
Stevie did do a lot of stupid things, but he always owned up to everything he did wrong.
I think I had a good life until all the trouble started.
Penny Bernstein was everything that Steven wasn't. So just think of the two of them side by side.
There was no real investigation done by the Sheriff's Department.
The sheriff told the DA not to screw this case up. He wanted Avery convicted of this crime.
On July 29, 1985, Penny Bernstein was raped on a beach near Two Rivers. She provided a description of the assailant and police believed it resembled Avery. After Bernstein picked him out of a photo array, Avery was arrested. Although 16 people testified that he was elsewhere at the time of the attack, a state forensic official claimed that a hair found on one of Avery's shirts was consistent with that of the victim. In 1985, Avery was convicted of the crime and sentenced to 32 years in prison. However, some had residual doubts about his guilt, believing that Gregory A. Allen, an area man who strongly resembled Avery and was suspected in other sex crimes, might be the assailant. However, law enforcement officials never investigated Allen. Avery maintained his innocence, and in 2001, the Wisconsin Innocence Project became involved in the case. The following year, it was granted a court order for DNA testing of a pubic hair found on the victim. In September 2003, a state lab using newer technology matched the hair to Allen, who was then in prison for sexual assault. All charges against Avery were dropped and he was released from prison. Soon thereafter, he filed a $36 million wrongful conviction lawsuit against the county, the district attorney, and the sheriff. During the legal proceedings, it was discovered that in 1995, detectives had learned that Allen, a prisoner in nearby Brown County, confessed to having committed a sexual assault in Manitowoc County, for which someone else was being convicted. Authorities, however, never pursued the claim.
They're not handing that kind of money over to Steve Avery. I did tell him, be careful. They are not even close to being finished with you.
Do we have a body or anything yet?
I don't believe so.
We have Steven Avery in custody, though.
On October 31, 2005, while the civil case was still ongoing, Teresa Halbach, a freelance photographer, drove to the Avery's auto salvage in order to photograph a van that he wanted to list in Auto Trader magazine. Avery claimed that he talked to her, but then she left after taking the photographs. She was never seen alive again. On November 3rd, a missing persons report was filed and a search was undertaken to locate Halbach. 2 days later, her vehicle was found at the family salvage yard. Over the following week, Halbach's car key was discovered in Avery's house, and blood, later determined to be his, was found in her car. In addition, human bones were recovered from a burn pit near Avery's home. They were soon determined to belong to Halbach. Additional evidence included a bullet found in Avery's garage that had Halbach's DNA on it. Avery was arrested, and while in jail, he settled his civil lawsuit for $400,000. In March 2006, Brendan Dassey, Avery's 16-year-old nephew, who reportedly had an IQ of 73, told police detectives that he and Avery had raped and murdered Halbach before burning her body. As on several subsequent occasions, Dassey was interviewed without legal representation or a parent. He later recanted, claiming that the confession was coerced. However, Dassey was charged with various crimes, although there was no physical evidence against him.
Why would someone falsely confess to a crime that they didn't commit?
They wanted this information in the worst way. So Brendan thinks if I tell them what they want to hear, I'm going to go home.
Chief among the allegations was that evidence had been planted. Notably, his attorneys argued that the blood in Halbach's car had actually come from a sample Avery had provided during the 1985 case, though it was debated whether someone had tampered with the vial. In addition, it was noted that Halbach's car key had been found by two Manitowoc deputies, who had been required to testify in Avery's civil suit, although several earlier searches had been fruitless. After a 27-day trial, Avery was found guilty of murder and illegal possession of a firearm in March 2007. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Later that year, Dassey was also found guilty and given a life term, though he was eligible for parole in 2048.
You are probably the most dangerous individual ever to set foot in this courtroom.
The truth always comes out.
In 2005, Avery and Dassey drew international attention with the airing of Making a Murderer on Netflix. The 10-part series was made by Moira DeMoss and Laura Riccardi, who first began working on the project in December 2005. While the program was an immediate hit with the viewers, many of whom became amateur sleuths, a number of those involved in the case objected to how they were portrayed and claimed that the series omitted evidence that supported Avery's conviction. In August 2006, a federal judge overturned Dassey's conviction, ruling that the confession, the only evidence against him, was illegally obtained. The case continued to make its way through the courts, reaching the US Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit in 2017. In June 2018, the US Supreme Court declined to hear Dassey's appeal. As per Steven Avery, he has recently hired a new lawyer named Kathleen Zellner, famous for overturning wrongful convictions. Zellner believes she knows who killed Teresa Halbach, and it's not Steven Avery. She's certain he is innocent. Kathleen and her defense team have been knocking on the legal doors for years, hoping to get Avery a new post-conviction evidentiary hearing. In her 135-page document to the Wisconsin Appeals Court, she argues that there's mountains of evidence that proves Avery has been wrongfully convicted. Until the court allows for another hearing in the future, Avery will remain behind bars for the rest of his life.
Mom, Dad, well, I know they want to be a happy family again like we used to be. I want to see if I can put that back together. Build me a big house so I can take care of them. I want to make them happy as long as they're here. And that's what I'm scared about.